Good afternoon, everyone. This is Maddy. I'm the program manager at Auxin Security. We are champions for cybersecurity that fits companies of all sizes from Fortune 100 to startups. We are focused on building world-class tools, including risk management and DevSecOps for code, network, application scans, clouds, and Kubernetes. Our team consults and provides services to customers of all major verticals, including banking, government, organizations, media and entertainment, e-commerce, and insurance. Today we are joined by Omer Farooq. He's the founder and CTO of Auxin Security. He provides principal consulting services to clients in different industries that include media and entertainment, telecommunications, home automation, healthcare, government defense, and higher and virtual education learning. He's actually an accomplished speaker and has presented at and was part of the panel for RSA, besides DC, besides San Diego, Vice Magazine, Motherboard, and InfoSec Magazine webinars. So hello, Mr. Farooq.
Hey, how you doing, Maddy? How are things going?
Good. What are you up to these days, and what are you doing?
Well, these days I'm actually very much entrenched into building a product for Auxin Security. We're launching an effort to build out a DevSecOps product that essentially provides our customers entire focus on the workload context instead of just giving you a flood of vulnerabilities that really makes no sense. Along with that, I'm also kind of busy these days with working with a consulting team and helping them deliver services into some major government clients and folks in banking. And that's kind of like my day-to-day. And besides that, we are also always looking to speak at conferences, and we have some upcoming conferences where we're going to be speaking in terms of talking about vulnerability management and AI.
Okay. So considering that, you're working with AI and you're part of the cybersecurity world and you consult for many different clients in many different industries, what do you think that the future holds, and in the short term and long term solutions to problems related with AI, data protection, data sciences, and DevOps?
So that's an interesting question, I think, and it's one of the catch-22s, and the problem being itself a solution. So you mentioned something that's very interesting, right? So in my opinion, the future will be a lot of it will be automation, a lot of it will be about AI. But AI itself is a problem in many instances where we need to know how to secure AI. Mm-hmm. So it is one of those things where we want to use AI to solve a lot of our problems. It can help us summarize things. It can help us talk to your data kind of workflows. It can help us understand large data sets. People are looking to build security data lakes. Now, if you want to build all the security data lakes and lake houses that are going to have house your data and we're going to use AI on top of it, well, that's great, but how do you actually secure those in the first place? So the future looks really bright, but at the same time, it's full of challenges and hurdles that we have to kind of figure out how to get around security for AI. How do we get AI to build a scale that is secure at the same time, performance and function that we expect from non-AI systems. So I'm excited about that, but that I think is where we are going in the future of industry, at least in the short term. In the long term, I think we have larger challenges to kind of overcome where we are becoming very cloud dependent. We need to kind of understand not just the cloud from digital transformation, but to understand the implication of our long-term data retention in the cloud.
Okay. And keeping that in mind, with everyone moving towards AI as everyone is and continues to do so, the DevSecOps process, how do you think that looks with the integration of AI? Do you think that companies can protect themselves as resources are limited, as we know?
Right. So AI itself is very wonderful technology. I think it is still growing with an OpenAI coming out in a few years and Microsoft Copilot coming out this year. The gap between development in AI is significantly faster than anything we've seen in the past, where a technology would come out and then it would take years to build an application at top. In this instance, what we are seeing is that AI came out, or generative AI came out to production level around last year in November, and Microsoft's already launching a full production platform and a suite of tools within less than 9 months. At the same time, I mean, at Auxin Security, we have a built-in DevSecOps product that includes AI technology in itself, and that is also a testament that the development with AI and for AI is significantly faster than what we have seen before, and that is a result of the fact that AI technology is available as cloud native. Whereas the other technologies were shifted and migrated to cloud, AI is actually born and lives in cloud from day one. Which means that though it is very usable and friendly to use, it's very costly and expensive, and it scales very difficult, and it's not available to people who want to build it on-prem, which leads to the challenges of data protection, either data privacy, and more largely about new data loss vectors that are out there in the cloud. And I think this is where Auxin Security and my team is building out the world-class products around AI, data AI, which include the LLM, large language model security, using the AI data protections that has not been in the industry, like the DLP products, the data loss vector products for AI, bridging the gap between data filtering and literally data filtering with context. That's something that is not being done today. So to keep it short, AI will definitely be helpful. It is going to be living in the cloud forever. There's no foreseeable future that is moving down to on-prem. So we need to prep for that. And I think a lot of industry is going to shift to building tools that are kind of allow you to make sure that your data does not hallucinate into other people's conversations, allow you to kind of keep data clean and keep a very well-defined lines of data lanes. And we'll see how that industry goes. But at Auxin Security today, we are focused on building that product, and that should get our customers to start not just thinking about using data for the AI product and applications, but using it more securely.
So when you're talking about organizations and all that, so how can organizations scale up security, as it is a major challenge that they face in general?
So recent talks and recent publications have essentially been focusing on that at the micro level, the security tooling is available. You can buy the tools, you can implement the tools, but when you scale up to an environment or ecosystem where you have more than, let's say, 10 or more applications, security becomes a significant challenge. Now you scale that up at 100 applications, your challenge is enormous. And if you go back anything above 200 to 500 applications, which is common for Fortune 500 companies, the security challenges becomes almost impossible. So scaling of security and scaling of economics for security is a very difficult problem, and it's very much an operational issue that we're looking at, right? At Auxin Security, we've been writing papers and talking about scale of security for a while. And I think as a large organization starts to take a look, they need to go back and say the macro level, the macroeconomics of security and the macro implementation of security it becomes a distributed responsibility. But the distributed responsibility just comes with the cost of having more resources, having more tooling. How do you kind of bridge that gap? And then the number one thing you can do around that is education of your developers, of your user base. But those non-technical elements do help. At the long run, you still need to think about how to scale this up. And in our opinion at Auxin Security, we believe that the security will scale if it's foundationally correct. And what that means is that you don't just buy tools and build and get findings. You get tools that actually build in findings that around a specific workload and your risk items. What we mean by that is, as you scale up, you have to basically do an engineering analysis of your high level and your medium and your low level assets, and then you do a risk categorization, and then focus on tools that can give you a single pane of glass to give you findings for your workload, and then categorize them by the risk. What that means is if you have 500 applications, you should be focused on applications that are the highest value risk and highest level of asset. And that will allow you to kind of start focusing on things. So the scale of security becomes a much smaller problem when you put in the context of value and risk, and when you actually know how all your systems and your code and your network and your web of internet facing properties are
Yep.
categorized into a workload.
Mm-hmm.
It is a doable problem, but it is a solvable problem, but it requires a lot of effort. Go ahead.
Right. So you were talking about context and adding that. So how do we add the context of security data from the tool? So how are we doing that?
So um, a lot of tools do not do that today. A lot of the tools are basically single threaded.
Yep.
They're only focused on finding like one single type of findings. Like we have tools from various companies that are either cloud, either scan containers, either scanning code, either scanning FDA, either doing
Yeah.
secret analysis. And when companies have an overload of these tools, and like we were talking about before, when you scale up number of applications and you have all these tools and you have all the software, all of this becomes untenable. So you need to kind of
Exactly.
find a point of optimization. And
Mhm.
Auxin Security, our alpha platform, does that. Essentially, what we do is we have built a platform that says, okay, you have 500 applications, but you should only need one single tool. Now you don't need to have X number of tools to just manage 500 applications. What's the benefit? The benefit is that you remove the noise from all the other tools that have basically no context about the workload. Our tools allow us to build a workload in the definition of how they were developed by by structure. So if you are using a bunch of libraries to build something in your cloud, we can do cloud monitoring, that containers that are part of that workload. We can take that code in that workload and show you findings together. And that allows you to build a logical, that crosses a logical, the gap that we always had in the industry where tools are not really focused on what you're building. We have essentially solved that problem. We are giving you findings for your solutions. We are cognizant of your workload. We're not just giving out findings that are for a cloud or a container, and you don't know where to track that back. You can track findings back to a workload, and you can either say this needs to be accepted today, and the SLA needs to be 5 days to fix, or SLA needs to be 30 days to fix based on the risk and the asset value.
Right. Okay. So how do we bridge the gap between the security tools, the GRC, and the actual hands-on security?
And that's something that the industry has been struggling for a long time because the tools have been categorized by the way the
Yes.
vendors have designed them to be a single use tool.
Yeah.
One of the things that we have done in Auxin Security is to build a tool that not only just does the scanning, but actually does the scanning and the vulnerability management, the risk management. Now that combines that, and the risk scanners themselves have built-in compliance for NIST and the FedRAMP and the HIPAA and the PCI compliance and all of those frameworks. So now that we have built a tool that can do compliance from the ground up using the scanners built into the same tool that you actually monitor your risk, you don't need to go to a different tool to go and get those information out. In fact, when you add the AI stuff that we have, AI technology and the generative AI that you've added into the finding the vulnerabilities, you should be able to remediate all the findings within the same tool. You do not need to go out to a secondary tool and have your developers or your security researchers look up things in different tools to kind of figure out what to do. This keeps people focused. This makes the problem much simpler to solve at scale. This also allows you to kind of build a team to focus on finding and fixing stuff rather than having to learn tools for every single use. So it not only saves you time, but it saves you resources in the long run.
Exactly. And then also knowing that figuring out which tools are compatible with each other, that becomes an added issue when you have so many security concerns as we have these days.
Exactly. And that's the problem that the industry is facing.
Yeah. Okay. So how can we solve security issues? How do we become more educated about our privacy and data protection in general?
And that's a very good question. I think that's one of the things that I think as the consumers of technology, as people who use technology in all facets of our lives, if we were to be more educated, that also kind of it's a shared responsibility thing. Not only the people who are actually building the technology are equally responsible, but people who are using it should be enforcing the accountability on tech on the tech itself, and but on themselves. So one of the things we can do is we can kind of understand how things work in at the basic levels. We should understand the 2FA, multi-factor. How do we keep longer passwords? How do we actually make sure that we have secure connections? Those are the things that the consumers can do. But at the developer and the engineering side, or the people who are building these tools, it's important that we actually build this out in a way that kind of caters to people. And what that means is that we need to kind of start going back to a little bit more to the basics. We focus on authentication and authorization models and lock those down. I think those are where the most amount of vectors for adversaries exist. We need to start go back and do the more basic stuff of code analysis and making sure that we are doing input validation. I don't think the way the technology has changed has actually changed the basic threat vectors. I think that those are the same as they were 5 years ago. The code might be moving to the cloud, but it doesn't change the fact that you need to check your inputs every time somebody provides you something.
Yes.
So on the customer level and the consumer level, be more educated about your passwords and your 2FAs, and be more cognizant of how technology is shifting in front of your screen. And people who are building them, I would recommend that basically keep things basic and keep things simple, and implement the OPS Op 10 kind of findings and remediate those right away, and then go from there. Usually the weakest vector is the simplest vector.
It has to be a joint effort. Otherwise, just securing one part is never going to end up securing the whole process.
Exactly.
Yeah. Okay. Thank you so much for your time and for giving us this insightful information, and also introducing us to your product in some ways. And we really appreciate the time and your knowledge that you have imparted here.
No, it was a pleasure. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you so much.